Ladies and gentlemen, now I know a few of you may be aware that recently I've been a little bit obsessed with 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross, because the game, it does a lot of stuff right, man. There are a lot of really fun modes of gameplay, and one thing that I absolutely love, and I'm like, why haven't Marvel Contest of Champions done this sooner, is the Final Boss feature that this game has. This is probably the most fun I've had in PvE content for ages. This system is absolutely amazing. It's so enjoyable, it has great replayability, and the rewards for it are really, really good. So the concept is the kind of, I think it's like every month for 2 weeks there is a final boss available, and it's kind of a super epic, jacked up version of a character. So in 7 Deadly Sins, it's one of the Sins King. However, in Marvel Contest of Champions, it could be Thanos, it could be Maestro, it could be the Grandmaster, it could just be like an Iron Man Infinity War or Korg. You know, you could put like any character as the super stacked up final boss, and the objective on this boss is to try and get as many points as possible. And the higher you get in terms of the points, and this can only be achieved in a single run, the more rewards you get at the end of the 2-week period based on your ranking. So it's got like top 100 rewards, which are mainly cosmetic, but then like going down you get all the rewards below as well. So it's stuff like gems, which is like the units of 7 Deadly Sins, XP potions, gold, awakening materials, pendants which can be used to evolve characters, anvils and gems to enhance gear a little bit further. So basically the higher you get, the more rewards you get, kind of like Alliance Quest in a way, like an individual version. However, the scoring system is really, really interesting, but also every time you beat this boss as well, you get these, Final Boss King tokens, and there's a shop as well. So even if you like don't get a super high score, you can still farm like the lowest difficulty to buy everything in the shop, and there's just amazing stuff in the shop as well, like all sorts of materials you need to upgrade characters, kind of exclusive cosmetics as well, related to King, who is the final boss. But the event is very, very rewarding and encourages you to like replay the boss and just fight it over and over again, because the scoring system as well is just really interesting, because it's not like traditional like go in, deal as much damage as you can, get him down as fast as possible. There's all these kind of like alternate missions and objectives, like use recovery skills 3 times, clear after using rank down skills, kind of drain like ult gauge, which is like MCOC power drain for example, and like remove buffs as well. So there are all of these side objectives, and if you want the really big score, you need to kind of focus and figure out a team strategy composition that is going to be able to achieve that stuff on the side. So when it comes to the points, I think there are about 20 different factors, all sorts of stuff that kind of like increase your points and decrease your points. You also get penalties for like the amount of turns you use, because again, 7 Deadly Sins at its core is kind of a glorified card game, but I like card games, whereas Marvel Contest of Champions is a fighting game. However, I think you could apply the exact same concepts to like a Thanos final boss, for example, or like again any character as a final boss, with all kind of the unique stuff that Marvel Contest of Champions does have in it. So if we're looking at like Final Boss Thanos, for example, and again this is just kind of a draft concept, you could have like 4 levels of difficulty: a normal one which has about 50,000 health, a hard one intended for uncollected that maybe has about 150,000 health, kind of epic for that step above uncollected that has 300,000, and maybe a nightmare version that like has 1 million for the really, really hardcore players. And maybe there are different rewards and leaderboards for kind of each version of this, and maybe when it comes to the various modes as well, there are restrictions like normal. You know, maybe you can just bring anybody in normal, but maybe hard and epic you can't bring like over 6-star champions, so it kind of prevents people coming in with like 6-star rank 3 and just dominating. Or maybe even in Nightmare you can't bring in 6-star champions, but there are ways you could do it to make it you know, very interesting and competitive. All boosters as well, I think, should be disabled if they wanted to do this in MCOC, and you could, again, you could do the point multiplier and formula based off like whatever they wanted to encourage people to use that maybe wasn't top meta. So say if they wanted people not to use like Quake or Ghost for a Thanos boss, they could give like additional points, like a fairly generous stack for every armor break you apply or every poison applied. So it's like, you know, a little bit different. different there. Also, additional points, maybe encouraging strategies like dealing damage into block using characters like Massacre, for example, is going to really like ramp up your points even more. And maybe there's stuff like based off biggest hit as well. That's a thing in 7 Deadly Sins that kind of encourages maybe a Proxima strategy as well. But there's all different kind of point multipliers that they could add into a final boss system like this to really mean that the standard options used for that boss are not going to be the best ones if people really want to get that high ranking on the competitive leaderboard and get the really big score. And that's what 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross does really well with its final boss system. It's not like the top meta characters are just going to be amazing. You really need to use characters and think about alternate strategies that are going to, you know, maximize the amount of bonus points you can get while killing the boss as well. So it just becomes like this really fun additional strategy where you get to play around with like all sorts of teams and experiment. And like as this final boss season has gone on, it's really been shaking up from day to day. I think everybody's pretty much on the same strategy now. Like it's the last day of it. We know what the top setup is, but the first week, man, it's just like everybody was trying all sorts. It was just really fun, really experimental, and yeah, I thought it was really, really cool. It's one of the most enjoyable things I've had as well, but there could also be, you know, in this concept example, like points deducted for blocked hits taken and fight duration as well. So there's all these factors that determine like how high of a score you get. And again, they could do like so many different final bosses. They've got the Gauntlet Thanoses that they made just ages ago, man. They're just sitting about like doing nothing at the moment. Like this one hasn't been used in a year, and I think the other ones before it for the, what is it, Avengers Infinity War event, I don't think I've done anything since like New York Comic Con in like 2018. It's been a very, very long time. So yeah, I wish they just kind of put these Thanos bosses to use, man, because if they can have like a final boss season and do a new final boss like every single month and have one running maybe for like the last like 2 weeks of every single month, I feel like that would really spice up the monthly rotation. And I also feel like, you know, they already have a lot of these bosses and characters like made. They've got so many characters that they could just put into the slot to be this epic final boss. Maybe track a couple of nodes on them to make them a little bit different, a little bit more of a challenge. But again, kind of the main thing and work behind this is kind of figuring out, you know, from the developers, like who they think is going to be like a fun alternate strategy to use. But again, they could just make up all sorts of crazy point multipliers, so that maybe like Man-Thing is one of the best options if it goes off like a huge amount of additional points for every poison applied as well. And yeah, I just feel like it could be honestly like a game-changing system to really kind of reignite that PvE fire in Marvel Contest of Champions. So yeah, honestly, man, I feel like a concept like this in MCOC could just be absolutely phenomenal. I feel like it would work just even better in Marvel Contest of Champions, just due to the fact that 7 Deadly Sins, again, at its core is a card game, so there's a lot of RNG, it's dependent on the draws, but it's a very, very snazzy card game, and there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with the game as well. But I also just wanted to show you guys kind of like the mid-tier difficulty of this Final Boss King fight, just so you can see how kind of points are accumulated and how the fight works. They have a bit of an epic setting, and you got 2 phases. So first phase, you just fight him in like his normal form. He's got these 2 Wolf Guardians as well, and the more alt gauge they fill, which is kind of like their power meter, the more defense he gets. But we want to start off, let's go for, we're going to chuck the sun at this man with Escanor, and then we're going to strike him with Escanor, and then we're going to use Elaine's ability to rank down his skills, because he's got 2 gold cards that he's going to fire off. So ranking down those cards gives us additional points. You can see on the left-hand side, those start to come up because it applies the dissolve effect. So that's something that's really key for not only controlling this fight, but getting some very nice points. But also, obviously, after we go, he gets his return to retaliate. But then next turn, we can have a pretty good one, I think. Okay, I think we probably want to go for this, and then let's go for the dissolve. I think we actually just get him down this next turn if we just go full damage. Yeah, it's just the medium difficulty, and I'm like, a bit too overgeared for the medium difficulty, so it's just getting absolutely slaughtered. But there we go. That's the first phase. Again, a bit of a cakewalk with this team and the overstacked champions. I'm like, what is it, 40,000 CC over the recommended power. But then the floor breaks and he goes beast mode into this crazy final form. And if he gets his ultimate in this phase, like his special 3 equivalent in Marvel Contest of Champions, he is just, yeah, just going to ruin. I think I can probably one-shot in this phase, though. But, yeah, there's all sorts of additional stuff that you do in a fight like this, an encounter, in order to get the most out of it. I think here we're just going to go, let's just go for full damage, man. Chuck the sun at this man with Escanor, go for Escanor's ult. Not too much survives Escanor's ult, man. He's a bit ridiculous. There we go. Straight up murdered that boy. Escanor, he's kind of like Sunspot of 7 Deadly Sins. Just a bit too much, mate. A bit too much. You can see at the end of the fight encounter, and again, that one wasn't the most difficult one. There's all sorts of additional points that you got throughout the fight for using various ranks of skills, applying various effects like the drain. Also additional points proportional to the number of surviving heroes, and also remaining health. And remaining health could be like a big thing in Marvel Contest of Champions, because again, the more health you have left, I assume the better you played that fight, and thus the more points you get. And yeah, there's a lot of really crazy stuff. Again, Marvel Contest of Champions, if they were to design a feature like this, could layer up the point multipliers to whatever they wanted to do. Like, literally, that's the great thing about the point system, is that, say if they had like a season of Final Boss Thanos and everybody was using like one character, let's say it was like Sunspot or Hyperion, maybe like the next season there could be a penalty for using characters that apply Incinerate, or something that kind of rewards characters that apply a poison or an armor break. So something that, you know, really buffs up characters in terms of that point multiplier that might not be the best options, but they get more points for the encounter because they can do certain stuff. So yeah, I just think that'd be really, really cool, man, and really allow this concept to mix stuff up with the MCOC meta. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts about the Final Boss concept in the comments section below. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is Final Boss Thanos something you would like to see in the future? Please do let me know. But aside from that, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you did enjoy today's concept video. If you did, do me a massive favor and smash that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.